Hello everybody, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Armoured Clash Imperium starter sets. I have the Faction Battlegroup one-player starter set and also the Imperium Introductory Set to take a look at. Now, these are in the main plastic, although there are a couple of resin bits in there. In the smaller Introductory Set, you get enough to build what I have in front of me, bar this big guy. He comes from the Faction Battlegroup. So it includes a resin commander that you can use to designate your battlefield commander on the tabletop. And this gives you the basic unit size that you can play your games, skirmish games with. And if you want to play small units in some of the larger games like battles or cataclysmic battles, you can as well. Obviously, doubling up the size or even tripling it in those cataclysmic games makes a lot more sense because of the longevity of the unit and also the increased dice that they're going to be rolling. Like I say, in the Imperial Faction Battlegroup, you also get the large colossus. You still get the little resin commander figure, but then you get double the number of plastics along with buildings, dice, cards, all the paraphernalia you need to play, movement tokens, that sort of thing. So, what we have in front of us here, like I say, is essentially one complete set of both types of sprues, the most important of which are your mainstay units. So here we have the Scion grenadiers then. The Imperium are essentially the inheritors of the Holy Roman Empire, very mixed blend of Prussia meets the Teutonic Knights and how it's developed within the world of dystopian wars. The commander up front here turns this unit from a Scion Grenadier into a Scion Grenadier command unit instead. Although if you're playing a game and you don't need him to be your commander, you could just use him as an officer for the leading. Interesting thing about the Imperium Grenadiers and a lot of the Imperium units is that they really favour arc weaponry to an extreme amount, shall we say. So they are equipped with sort of arc carbines, and arc in game terms means when you roll those critical hits, instead of rolling an additional die into your pool, you roll 2 for the arc weaponry, so they can be quite devastating up close and personal. Also, if you're running your standard sort of battle group order of battle, your commanders will give you different abilities depending on the style you're playing, whether it's an infantry corps, an armor corps, or an artillery corps. And you can play around with them and make multiples. With the introductory set, you're probably only going to be playing the standard layout, in which case the command ability is quite nice actually for keeping your stuff on the table much longer. You have the ability to, on break tests, increase the unit's morale by 1 for every friendly within about 3 inches. That sort of rigid command structure coming to the fore with them, really. Next up, and supplemental to them, are the Scion Veerling heavy infantry. So these guys are a really good support. While you may only be getting a small amount of arc weaponry firing out to a relatively short range with the standard Scion Grenadiers, they can really reach out and touch somebody from a bit further away, a bit more devastating from a smaller amount of units, because each of the bases just has that much more firepower coming its way. So they make a good companion to support against incoming, well, they're devastating against light, but also incoming heavier targets as well. You can start to sort of pepper them from a distance, which is a great way of protecting your infantry, because they are the meat and potatoes at the end of the day. They're the ones who are going to be reliant upon season objectives, that sort of thing. So here we have the Luftlanzer, Air Jäger squadron. They are Junker or Jungfrau, depending on how it goes. So sort of an elite flying cavalry division, if you will, within the Imperium. They are aggressive to, I wouldn't say a fault, but like most of the soaring troops, they can bump up and fly across all intervening terrain. They do count as height 10 at that point, which means they're more likely to be shot down out of the sky. But if they don't get shot, they have hit and run, so they can fly in, attack a target, for they only have melee as an ability, and then fly 5 inches away afterwards. So either further forward into cover or retreating out of range of a counter-attack by your opponent. They also have arc weaponry, which means they're doubling up on those exploding criticals, and they have precision, so they can select who they kill, which means you can take out the officer in your opponent's unit, and if you cause casualties, they gain victory points because they're all aggressive fighter pilots, if you will. So they will be a real pain in a lot of people's behinds, I imagine, when they're getting into the field. Taking a look at some of the bigger guys, we have the Crusading Teutonic Order. Now, this unit can be made into 2 different flavors. So we have the melee version, which is the Teutonic Armoured Crusaders, and then we have the ranged version, which is the Castellans. Speaking about the Castellans first, they are arc weapon carrying, which means they are, as everybody else, devastating with criticals. However, they're very good against light and heavy targets. So unlike things like your grenadiers and some of the other units like the Luftlanzer, they don't have to worry about just attacking light targets. They are more than capable of dealing with both, and they also have a decent melee attack as well if anybody happens to get up close and personal. I quite like the way they've got their little bodyguards behind them as well. So you can imagine it as a knight with a couple of squires as they move through the battlefield, playing merry hell with your opponent. They also have precision, so it means, again, you can try and take out the officers if you see them. The Crusader version are melee only, although they are much better at melee than the Castellans. It's very much a case of jack of all trades for the Castellans. They're good range, good melee, and then the Crusaders are master of melee. So to get in there and have devastating attacks, they can really put somebody to the sword, or in this case, the massive arc maul that they seem to be wielding there. So those are sort of first Teutonic Order, which gives you really solid, aggressive bodyguard unit. They can soak hits from other units around them if needs be. So if you have your commander on the table and they're nearby, they can protect them, as well as laying out a severe amount of damage if needs be as they progress. Because they are bulky, they are restricted in transportation though. So you're going to find them relatively slow moving on the battlefield, and they'll get there in the end. But you may have to put more resources behind them to get them where you need to be, as opposed to some of the other units where you can just throw them straight into a Sturm wagon. And speaking of, the set allows you to make 4 of the little Sturm wagons. So the Sturm wagon are your transport system for your Imperium. It would be it the Scion Grenadiers or your Wehrling or whatever it happens to be that you need to get up the table quickly. They each have a transport capacity of 2 bases. So if you need to get your officer up there, you'll need 3 of these. In the game, they work like battle taxis. They're not assigned to specific units, so they can make multiple trips, chauffeuring whoever needs to get to the front, or be reconfigured across the battlefield to somewhere else constantly. The nice thing about the Sturm Panzers is they've got a base move of 7, which is almost double your infantry, so particularly good for that. However, they also all have the tow capability for the field guns, which means you can maneuver and reposition your field guns when things start to either go your way, or potentially if things aren't going your way and you need to get away from the area they're in very quickly to protect your valuable weaponry. Then you can hook them up to the back of the Sturm wagons and just tear on down the field. If we take a look at the guns themselves, this is one of the other options. that we have in the on the sprue. So 4 guns is a section or a unit. However, you have 3 different variants in here, as you can see. 2 have been built with the Krupp field gun, which is a cannon. Decent enough at light targets, slightly better at heavy targets, so a bit of counter battery fire isn't beyond the realms of possibility, but sinking it into a upcoming enlightened walker or crown tank is probably a better way to use them. So they've got a range of about 20 inches, so relatively good across the battlefield. However, if you want something that will do the same sort of damage that you'll do against light targets, then you can use the Essen rocket battery. And the Essen also can counter aerial targets. So if your opponent has Spitfire, Soarers, or if they have aerial targets coming in, like some of the flyers that have recently been released, then the Essen will give you that anti-aircraft aerial capability as well. And it will do it out to a much greater distance. So you've got a 30-inch range for both light targets and your aerial. So you lose the ability to strike heavy targets, but with the Essen then you can get in there and start plugging away at some targets from a much greater distance. Projecting threat is always handy. The last thing we have is the Thunar arc artillery piece, and it is a great all-rounder. 20-inch range, so the same as the Krupp. However, it does have the arc keyword on it again. So once more, you're getting more bang for your buck. And it's a good halfway house in that it has the same damage output against both light and heavy targets. So it's not as good as heavy as the Krupp, but it's slightly better against light than the Krupp, and it's got a similar range. So it can be quite a nice little combination. If you happen to build an artillery battle group, then you have a special commander ability that gives bonuses to things with the arc keyword as well. So potentially if you're looking at possibly doing multiple battle groups and having the artillery section in there as well, I would definitely stack heavy on the Thunar arc artillery pieces, because you'll get a lot of devastation from those, on top of the ability to get those double exploding hits. So yes, very nice indeed. Now, taking a look at some of the fast scouting elements. Okay, so the Jaeger Cav and the Totenkopf, they've got a really, really aggressive style of play behind them. They move 9 inches. They are more than capable of attacking both light and heavy targets, as well as going into melee. And when they're in there, they have corrosive fumes with like a 2-inch aura or 2-inch bubble around them. So they come in there with their bikes choking up the air and causing additional devastation to infantry or living, shall we say, units there. Your automata and the like, you probably won't have to worry too much about corrosive fumes getting in their eyes, but anybody else will have to worry about the Totenkopf Cav coming their way. Again, just a really nice, simple cavalry unit. Somebody that you can use to push out and push somebody off an objective, even though they're possibly not going to be hanging around to pick it up themselves. Just the fact that they can speed off very quickly with that 9-inch move means they can be very devastating at harrowing or harrying your opponent across the table, which is a great thing to have on your side, especially because you're not always going to be able to rely on the Junker and Jungfrau from your soaring units of Luftlanzer. The other cavalry or bike section that there is the Dreirad. Again, this comes in 2 flavors. So depending on what you're looking to do, your standard Dreirad have got a sort of cannon or light autocannon mounted on them. They are capable of engaging light or heavy targets. Bit of a mediocre gun, but nice to have as a flanking position or something to quickly bring support fire across the tabletop. The other version can be built though as the Wehrling, so another piece of anti-air capability. So for any aerial targets, having a fast-moving bike squad, or in this case, motorbike and sidecar, that they can maneuver around the battlefield and get your anti-air where it needs to be. They've got a move of 7, so relatively quick. Or sorry, I think they've got a move of 8 actually. So as fast as your Sturm wagons at the very least, double your infantry certainly. So bringing that fast mobile air support with you, or it means your assault elements within your army don't have to rely on fixed positions at the back like the Essen rocket battery. Instead, you can bring your air support with you and then just watch the skies for whatever's coming your way as your armor or walkers move forward. And speaking of, the last couple of options within the sets themselves are essentially your tanks. So taking a look then at the tanks first, tanks proper, as opposed to the walkers. There are 2. They can be built in 3 different ways though, and you'll always build a pair to make a basic unit. But in this case, we've got the Panzer wagon, which is actually a assault vehicle, so an AFV rather than a tank itself. It's a bit slower than your Sturm wagons, more transport capacity though. So 2 of these will take 6 stands as opposed to 3 of the Sturm wagons for the same amount of stands. However, it also has the assault ramp, so a little bit slower, better armoured, will get you there. And when you drop the ramp at the front and people disgorge into the enemy's face, they can attack immediately. Whereas with the Sturm wagon, you have to disembark first and then set yourself up for an attack subsequent to that, which does mean you have to time it better with the Sturm wagons, otherwise you get shot off beforehand. The other variants then, we have the mainline battle tank, Sturm Panzer, which has got a main battle cannon on it, and festooned with sponsons as well, as also having a Veerling at the back. So they have anti-aerial capability and also capable of reaching out and touching both light and heavy incoming vehicles. The alternative version, the Zerbrutten, is a siege breaker. It has slightly better damage output, but really what you're bringing it for is the potential for leveling buildings. So any building that's been garrisoned by your opponent, the Zerbrutten can reach out and knock it down with the siege breaker capability. But it really depends what sort of thing you're after. Obviously, if you're just looking for a mainline battle tank, then save yourself the points and go for the Sturm Panzer instead of upgunning for no needed reason. Though I will say I do like the idea of bringing garrisons down on people's heads. The final pair of plastics are the absolutely gorgeous little walkers. Again, these are a plastic set that can make either the Lucifer heavy walker, the Donnerschlag artillery piece, or the Sturmriese arc walkers. So once again, you have a variety of options within those 3, depending on which way you want to build them. So if we look at the first, which is the Lucifer, obviously these are part of the Teutonic order. The Lucifer comes with a massive flamethrower attached to it. So very short range, but devastating up close and personal with the torrent keyword on it, which means if you're looking to push your Castellans and your Crusaders forward, having a couple of Lucifer alongside them will make an absolutely devastating short range barrage that your opponent will have to suffer greatly from before you finally move in to kill them off. So the Lucifer's a remarkably nice piece of kit, but like I say, 10-inch range for the flamethrower on it, so you do have to be up close and personal. The other one we have built here is the Thunderclap, the Donnerschlag. It has aerial capability, but also has a long range, 36 inches, so it's your artillery walker. Keep it at the back, fire off lots of rockets. Very, very good for supporting from distance once again. And if your opponent has to close to you to take out those, then they're going to have to come towards your main battle line. And the nice thing about walkers is They're not static like artillery pieces. They don't have to wait for a vehicle to come and tow them away. They can just move off when they need to. So watching them sort of striding out of a street and obliterating something down the road and then walking off again will really upset your opponent, I feel. The last, which we don't have built here, is another arc weapon. So decent range, 18 inches, almost double the Lucifer, and capable of engaging both light and heavy targets. So it's that middle of the road. And a lot, when you put your force together, will come down to partly your playstyle and partly what else you're building within it. So if you already have the walkers built as your Donnerschlag for the long range, then maybe you might want to push some of the other weaponry onto your other things. So you go, okay, well, I've got a bit of light devastation from 36 inches away, a bit of aerial cover, so maybe I won't bother so much with the aerial on the Dreirads and push just standard kit out on those and let them sort of zoom off and do a bit of fighting. So there's a bit of pre-game army building that you might want to have a look at and just see where the gaps are in your particular force after you've put everything together. Where are the things that you're going to suffer against? Do you need more devastation against light targets? Are you looking a little light against infantry, for example? Or do you worry about the heavier armoured pieces coming towards you from your opponent, and therefore you might need to have the siege breakers, so the Zebruten, or push out something else like the Lucifer or Castellans instead of Crusaders? You know, all of these things come down to personal preference and to where you see the weaknesses in your list against your opponent, because what your opponent brings will obviously have a greater impact on what way you build the force itself. Now, there is one more piece of kit, and that is the big resin walker. So this is built as the Seeger Vitruvian walker. As you can see, he's an absolute behemoth. Literally, in this case, a behemoth. This is the, I'm not going to say standard loadout, but it is the arc heavy loadout. So 18-inch range against light and heavy targets. Some turrets for up close and personal. Decent middle of the road, giant walking mechanical monstrosity. You can also build it as the Faust though, and if you build it as the Faust, it does get slightly better range. So instead of 18 inches, you're looking around about 20, 22 inches. The ranges do vary depending on whether you're engaging light targets or heavy targets, and you do get better shots against light. So rather than having 5 arc shots, you're getting 6. You get 5 arc shots against heavies with the Seeger, and you get 5 with this as well. So dice-wise, it's relatively the same. You lose the ability for the arcing criticals to double up though. But what you gain with the Faust is a 9-die melee attack with Wrecker, as it will just go in and rip the roof of any other massive behemoth that's on the table from any other faction. So it's a swings and roundabouts way. It's whether you need it to get up close and deal with something big, or if you just need it to be a gun platform and just bring all the extra arc weaponry to bear that the Imperium really sort of run with. So it's a nice bit of kit and something different from seeing the sort of Crown Behemoth or the Empire with their Jade Palace on wheels, essentially with a massive roller on it. They have a very grounded, for want of a better word, armoured fighting vehicle feel. They're on tracks, they're on wheels, they're crawling across the ground. This I absolutely adore. It takes the Teutonic aesthetic and puts it in there, and looks very different from what we see with the Enlightened and their large multi-limbed walker. This has the really sort of knightly, stately look to it, and an absolute brutal piece of kit for people to remove, because they're going to be looking at sort of 4 points of damage to actually make it suffer a loss of hit points, and then they've got 12 hits to remove from it. So really, it needs to be damaged 48 times before it goes away, and when it goes away, it will go up in spectacular fashion. So that is the big gentleman there that you get in the Imperium Faction Battlegroup. Now, I thought we'd show you just one more thing. So we have a couple of painted examples that we're planning on using for the studio here. So these are test color schemes. John will be doing a tutorial on these soon, but using just the Army Painter Fanatics range and the Army Painter Speed paints, going for sort of slate blue-grey, very typical Teutonic feel to them. We have our Scion Grenadiers and then a painted Lucifer. So just to give you an idea of how you can paint them if you so desire. Even the metallics were done with speed paints, so you can get them onto the table in double quick fashion, and they have a very rugged Germanic look to them. So there you go, folks. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what is in the Imperium starter sets, both the Introductory and the Faction Battlegroup from Warcradle Studios. Let me know what you think below. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.